IT band friction syndrome. What to do, and most importantly, what not to do. Again, as a physical therapist, I'm just the tour guide for your body. Your body can heal, it just has to be in the right environment. So we go back to the question, what's the causation? What's causing this? It's in the name, friction. Friction causes a tremendous amount of physical stress to the tissue, being the IT band. Every tissue in our body has a breaking point, and there's a continuum. It's not healthy and then completely ruptured. There's all this in between. So what we don't do is strengthen. It's not a strength issue. It's not weakness that's causing it. And to then strengthen would put more stress and force and load through something that's trying to heal. Stretching, you can't stretch the IT band. Anyone that's dissected a human body, you know, it's like me stretching a bone. You can't stretch it. So then what do we do? More importantly, what do we not do? What happens, what causes that friction is when your knee is bent, there's a zone. Knee straight, as it goes to bend, there's this hot spot. There's a spot where that band will flip and go over a bony prominence. I like to think of it like my tooth. If I have floss between one tooth and then I go over that tooth and go to the other side and go back and forth and back and forth, and I'm keeping that downward tension, it's putting stress through that floss. So you can imagine that over time, and if I'm tightening it down more, it just causes more friction. So the two most common things that I talked about in the podcast are one, a mechanic standpoint, how you're moving forward to reduce that stress, reduce that friction, and time spent in that friction zone. The other I talked about is simply not foam rolling your IT band. Foam rolling can be a great intervention and a tool for recovery, for loosening up tissues. But I talked about in the podcast, the IT band, the problem is, one, you can't stretch it. And two, it's already plastered down. And so if it's already plastered down, if we're just rolling on top of it and compressing it, it can just cause more stress and more irritation. Think to the floss. I think if I'm pulling down, it's putting more stress, versus tensile, picking up and pulling away, allows it to be a little bit more mobile. So that's why I talked about the plunger and unclogging someone's IT band, or using cupping and plastic cups all along the length, just to try to get some lift to it. But then again, going after the causation, which most often it's the mechanics. Two things. One, picking your feet up. Picking your feet up. What does that do? That increases the time spent in that friction zone. The higher you bend, you're tearing it up, you're stressing it. By pushing with a tush and keeping your foot on the ground, pushing the world back, and only focusing on the pushing, not pulling up, we get so much less stress on that actual IT band. So I talked about the oar in the water. If I move my boat forward, I put the paddle in the water, and I push the water back. I don't need to then pull that oar up out of the water and then go down. It should not be this up and down motion. Yes, I'm sorry, the pose method, they got it wrong with that. It makes sense, right? Push back. Why pull up? It's wasted time, it's wasted energy. So by keeping the foot, the cue, keep your feet closer to the ground. That alone, we can minimize some of the time spent in that friction zone. So that was the first one of, if you're pulling up versus pushing back, push with the tush, don't pull your feet up, otherwise it's gonna increase the friction. The other was this weaving. Another same example, I'm gonna turn around. If I push the water back, and then I take this roundabout way each time, anything that's not contributing to forward motion, which is the goal, if it's not contributing, it's not efficient. It's wasted time and energy. What can that lead up to and add to? injuries, too much stress too soon, not enough adaptation and recovery. So I've seen the killer combo of the two, of the picking the feet up and doing this kind of roundabout way. And that's where the posture can kind of set you up. If you work on that ankle, hinging at the ankle, keep that slight forward lean. It's a lot harder to pull the feet up if you have the right posture. And it's a lot harder to go around if you're just focusing on the push back. Hope you found it helpful. Hope you checked out the podcast, and thank you so much for being here.